Hello, my dear folks, my dear audiences, dear viewers. We love you. We care a lot. And because it's our community that we try to protect. In light of the San Bernardino shooting, there's lots of lessons to learn. And for the past 1 week and a half, we've been, ever since the Paris shooting, we've been talking about this a lot. What's happening in the world. And in San Bernardino, we're talking about what's happening there and what had happened there. And after that, we have lots of considerations, lots of worry to talk about. Is the government doing a good job to protect us? Well, if the government fails to do their job protecting us, we the people, nicknamed, well, taxpayers, nicknamed we the people, how about ourselves, right? What are we gonna do? So, and then in a situation, if you unfortunately involve in a situation or encounter a situation like that, what do you wanna do? So to get to the answer, I have my good friend, Mr. Joe Gardner, former Santa Monica PD law enforcement officer for 27 years to talk about it. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here again.
All right, thank you very much. All right, forget politics, okay? Yeah. Forget politics. Politics sucks. Politics does suck. All right, anyway. So we're talking about life. We're talking about stay alive. Right. Stay alive. That is the key, right? No matter what life has in store for you, you have to be able to keep breathing, to see what is there, right? Other than that, you're not talking about anything. Yeah. So, of course, with the same issue, there are different perspectives I would like to look into. Number one, on the overall, what's happening in the nowadays world, right? Number two, locally, is our government, as a country, protecting us, we the people, the taxpayers. And then your comment as a police officer about the response and about the conduct, about the aftermath, everything of the last event in San Bernardino, your comment, all right? And then we're talking about, in a situation, unfortunately, you are involved in a bad shooting. What are you doing? What do you want to do in order to keep alive, right, like that. So let's do it layer by layer, one by one, shall we please? Okay. Of course. So I know you're not a politician, and well, I'm not either. And after all, this is not a political issue at all. No. So what's happening in the world now?
Well, I think we live in a more dangerous place. To see what happened last Wednesday in San Bernardino is a real wake-up call. And I think every citizen in this country is our hearts go out to what happened, to the victims, and the ongoing struggle that families are going to have for many years, and those that were there who survived and are, going to go through some real emotional issues in the coming months and years.
Yeah. And if something had happened in Paris, or anywhere else, we may think about, oh, unfortunately, somewhere, somehow, people get hit. We're talking about others, right? Right. When something happens right here in front of our eyes, right next to our town, so we kind of like suddenly wake up, oh my God, it is here. And in addition to that, do you recall that after the Paris shooting, there was a threat saying that the bad guys, the terrorists, had planted 15 of the same thing or similar nature within the United States in 15 states.
Right.
Yeah. So now we see it happening. We're only on day 7 of the same thing, of the San Bernardino shooting. Right? So it is getting to us, not to others. Am I right?
Right. It is. It makes you wonder how secure and safe we are.
Exactly.
We keep getting maybe a dribble of news reports that say, you know, that were some other planning that was going on by some of these ISIL terrorists.
Yes.
Indicating that maybe there would be some more future attacks. And, you know, as Americans, we need to be prepared for that.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that's very important. I believe my audience, you all heard that. He says, my friend Joe Gardner, a 27-year veteran of the Santa Monica PD, yeah, quote unquote, you really want to get involved. As Americans, you should think about that. Right, exactly. Now, instead of in the past when the terrorists kill each other among themselves, right, that's a totally different story. Right. Now you're talking about they're targeting the unarmed innocent civilians. Could be you, could be me. Could be anywhere, in your restaurant, in a theater, on the street, in a market, could be anywhere.
Right.
So that is the thing I don't understand, why they target civilians.
Well, that's part of getting their mission accomplished, which is to create a stir of terrorism in the hearts of the people that live here. In the past, terrorist groups have focused on what we call soft targets, those places you refer to, theaters, public events, places where people congregate. And they know that that's where they can receive the maximum effect, both at the moment and also in the news and the aftermath.
Yeah. And to us, we're taxpayers, right? We hire our officers, our system, the whole system, even the government to protect ourselves. Okay, but there is one word saying the government is doing an excellent job, and there are other words, however, saying that, okay, on a known basis so far that this couple had been radicalized for quite some time. Right? Okay, here's the logic. The logic being that now that the government discovered that they had been radicalized for a year or year and a half something, suppose they must have found some record, right? Okay, the record, somebody had the record that they had this radicalization on whatever day they swore in, like that kind. Okay, suppose that record is there. So if other department of the government to share the information, knowing that this couple had been radicalized on that day already, so why would we in the first place allow them to enter the country? And the wife came in on the K whatever visa for fiancé.
Correct.
So we did allow them in. Suppose. So of course you're not of that level to give comment, but as a regular American, we really feel that they should negotiate, they should intercommunicate each other to share the documents, to share the records. Am I right?
Yeah, you would think that would happen. Unfortunately, as we're seeing now, there are many circumstances in which people are not being properly vetted. In a recent report, it talked about the TSA, you know, the airport screening. Well, they have 72 people on the watch list, which is very disturbing. You know, why would these people who we entrust to make sure that our air transportation is safe, you know, be within that system, people that are on watch lists, people that shouldn't have ever been able to get on as employees of the federal government. So I, as well as you and probably many other people feel a lack of confidence in what the government's doing. They need to be better at their screening process, at their vetting process before we let them.
And in addition, Joe, this guy is not a stranger who walks in the building. This guy is one of the government. Right?
Yes.
He is a government employee, right? Had the government been more restrictive on their employees, on their employment, they would know something like that. They would know some guy had been radicalized, and then, well, this guy must show some kind of abnormal behaviors. So.
Yeah, you would think, but he kind of went under the radar. People didn't recognize him as really having any radicalization indicators. His neighbors actually saw activity the day before, but didn't really think it was that important.
Shooting practice, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, and they didn't get all the equipment in one day.
Right.
Right. And they discovered there were 7,000 rounds of bullets available.
Right.
Many magazines. Right.
Yes.
And at least 5 assault weapons.
Yeah.
And all the armors and stuff. And they didn't get that prepared, ready for one day.
No.
Right. Okay.
Took time.
It took time, right? And on the other hand, though, when the government fails to do that, as there is information available, and there is no sharing of the inner communication within the government system, right? And then we have to consider the fact that, you know, that the tap wiring system.
The wiretap system?
Yeah, the wiretapping system, right? So that is canceled. And now we're looking at a special time that we enter into in history that we almost have to declare war against them. So during a special time, we really have to do something special. Am I right?
Yes, we do.
So, and then you're talking about the government doing government job, and we as our citizen, as our civilians, we have to bend a little bit in order to do that.
Right.
So what's your take on that, about it in between the two?
Well, there is a shift now. Unfortunately, I think reports that have been coming out in local media have said that you know, we're already infiltrated by ISIL terrorism. And now the front line of that cause to protect the American people is it's going to resort down to local law enforcement. As we saw in San Bernardino, local law enforcement were the frontliners who stopped this terrorism. Unfortunately, so many people were lost and so many people were injured. But it does tell you now that the battle is going to lie with local police to handle those situations now.
Good, very good. All right, my dear audience, today with me is my good friend, old friend, a trustworthy friend, Mr. Joe Gardner, a former Santa Monica PD veteran for 27 years, and he knows his job. He knows what he is talking about. It is about public safety. It used to be police officer versus public safety, right? Now you're talking about police officer, the public all together have to handle a situation that we call terrorist attack.
Correct.
Because we're targeted. Because we're proud Americans, we are targeted.
Yes.
We're like that, right? My dear audience, let's take a short moment out. As we schedule, when we come back, we're going to pinpoint on the response of the local law enforcement officers at the event, at the occurrence, minute by minute to the minute by minute, and see if they themselves, we're not talking about the government as a whole, we're talking about a part of it as local enforcement officers. They are doing a good job. So stay with us, please.